As the year draws to an end, I want to take a few minutes to really reflect on where we are on our goal to eradicate breast cancer. This year there's been a lot of talk about the limitations of screening and mammography, about what the relationship of the environment may be to breast cancer, and about the overtreatment of DCIS. And yet, not a lot of action. Here at the Dr. Susan Love Research Foundation, we believe if there's a question, let's roll up our sleeves and try to answer it. So this year, we completed our pilot study to develop a home test for breast cancer. The breast cancer risk, that is. This is something that you would be able to do that would tell you whether you were at higher risk and whether you needed to have more screening or not. We've completed it in 1,000 women in China, and now we're buffing it up, and we're going to try it in a much larger study in the Army of Women and see if it works. In addition, we've also completed the first study on the non-breastfeeding breast. We know a lot about how the breast makes milk and all the environmental chemicals that get into milk, but nobody has ever studied the breast that's not breastfeeding. And after all, we spend most of our lives not breastfeeding. So we completed a study that showed the resting breast is very different than the breastfeeding breast. Big surprise. And now we're writing grants to try to do research to figure out what chemicals actually get into the breast. Which ones do we need to worry about? Then there's DCIS. People know that not all DCIS becomes cancer, but they can't figure out which ones are which, and so we overtreat everybody with surgery, radiation, and sometimes even hormone therapy. Well, we completed the first study of treating DCIS through the nipple, right into the duct that has DCIS. We did 13 patients, it went very well, and we now have a much bigger grant that's pending, we'll see if we get it, from the Department of Defense to expand this and to really see if we can't figure out how to treat DCIS locally once and for all. And then finally, the cause of breast cancer. You know, we haven't made a lot of progress in figuring out the cause, and yet we have the Army of Women with 370,000 women who are willing to participate in studies to find the cause. Now, our next step is going to be the Health of Women study, which will launch over the next year, which will ask questions and track women over time so we can figure out what the cause really is. And then there's the most exciting new grant that we're just writing, which is, could it be an infection? You know, nobody's ever looked to see if there's bacteria or viruses in the breast fluid. So we wrote a grant to see. But these are grants. And you know, grants take a long time. It actually takes about a year for us to even hear whether they accepted our grant or not. If you give money to the Dr. Susan Love Research Foundation, it will be spent today. We'll put it to work immediately at trying to get rid of breast cancer. We won't waste it on a lot of administration. We've got the projects ready to go. We know exactly how we want to do it. And the funding will just accelerate our efforts and accelerate the day when we find the answer to breast cancer and can end it once and for all. So please dig deep and please give us money to the Dr. Susan Love Research Foundation so that another generation of women doesn't have to hear you have breast cancer. We can be the generation that ends it. You can go to the drsusanlove.org website to hear more or read more about our foundation, or you can click at the link at the bottom of this message and donate. But whatever you do, give whatever you can so that we can make breast cancer history. Thank you, and happy holidays.